Morning and welcome to another series of Outperforming the Environment. I'm sitting here again in our office with Simon Berry, and today we're going to be talking about accepting your reality as it is today. Now, we've had a little discussion before we pressed record, and I'm very excited about what we're going to talk about because these are simple but very effective techniques and ideas that we're sharing. And if we grasp the concept behind all of this, it will change our lives, change the way we perceive things to be. And if we do that successfully, we can start to enjoy different results. And this is what it's all about, isn't it?
Sure.
We ultimately talk by talking about outperforming the environment. We're talking about getting different results out of life, not being a product of our environment, but rather being an influence on our environment so that we can get what we want out of it. And today we're going to make it very clear in a very simple way that it is easy to do, relatively. It's not easy, sorry, that's a mistake. It's simple. It's not easy. And there's a big difference. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it's easy to do and it's easy not to do. So let's just get straight into this, Simon. And I'll let you start because this is your area of expertise, and I'm very excited to hear what you're going to say.
Thank you. What we are talking about today is we are looking at what happens when we get stuck in a situation where we are producing results that we don't want. In business, personal life, as an entrepreneur, in economics, in whatever situation. And one of the things that we find that we are in an environment in which is changing very fast, and it's always possible for us to give in to the environmental pressures to the point that we become very, very reactionary to the environment. And once that happens, we lose complete control of our capacity to influence and to produce the results that we want. Now, one of the things we notice is when we get into situations where we begin to produce results that we don't want, and most of them have nothing to do with the physical environment, like disasters like tsunamis, earthquakes, natural disasters. Most of the challenges we are facing have nothing to do with natural disasters. They've got to do with our thinking as human beings, how we relate to the environment. But now, the challenge we face, especially if you are talking about at leadership level, is when we start producing results that we don't want. Let's say you're in a business and your numbers are beginning to fall. The biggest challenge that happens now in that particular situation that can stop us from shifting the results and outperform the environment is the idea of refusing to accept our reality as it is.
It happens, isn't it? As soon as things start going wrong, the leader, often whoever's in charge of that particular process, disassociates themselves from the problem.
Yes.
And starts with the pointing of the fingers.
Yes.
To everyone else, blaming the environment, blaming others.
Exactly.
And like you said, distancing themselves from the consequences.
Exactly.
Of what's been going on.
Exactly. Yeah. So we are talking about denial of reality as it is. So people will start saying, okay, there are two types of realities we're talking about. The reality of what is actually on the ground. When your numbers are falling, if you're in business, there's a tendency of trying to package the whole situation in a way that does not make it, real. We start looking at metaphors that make it appear like nice. When the numbers are falling, the numbers are falling. I mean, that's it. But this is the one type of denial. Then the second one is the denial of our involvement, of our contribution to the kind of results that we are producing. So you find that at leadership level, it's very easy to say the results that we are producing now, they have nothing to do with my kind of leadership or my kind of management, the way I've done things, the way I've thought about things, my decisions, my leadership, the way I've dealt with the teams, the way I've responded to things, the lack of probably the right intelligence on which to make decisions. So we deny all those things. So those two types of denial, denying the actual facts on the ground and also denying our involvement, how we have contributed, it really makes the whole situation even more complicated. And you find that in most of the times, the environment triggers the collapse of an organization, for example. But what happens after the trigger has more to do with how the leaders and their teams will respond to the situation. So the idea of responding to the situation becomes one of the key issues that contributes to even the most serious impacts on the results, where you begin to see that after the environment is triggered the change, the way we respond, we don't respond strategically or appropriately, and then we begin to accelerate the failure of the organization. And one of the things that is critical that contributes to that is refusal to accept the realities of what's going on.
Can I just stop you on that one, on that refusal to accept? It's a very big problem, and it's a problem with all of us. We all go through these stages where we experience these undesirable results, failure, mistakes, things that cause us to be embarrassed in front of our peers. And this is a big human problem. If your friends are going to laugh at you, if you say something, you don't say something. And that refusal to accept that we have a part to play in that is a very massive problem that we need to get over, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
So that I think is a big one. We need to accept that for every decision that we make, there's going to be rewards or consequences, and we need to accept them both equally. So you can't win every single race.
Precisely. So there are a number of things that we were going to discuss that contribute to this whole psychological dynamic where we start refusing to accept our realities, especially our involvement in contributing to the results that we don't want, or what we call failure. Right. The first one is ego. We are psychologically wired to defend ourselves, because if you are in a leadership position, there's a lot of expectations that are bestowed upon us. We want to project a certain level of invincibility, of being infallible. So when we start seeing that results are becoming what we don't want, the idea is because of this ego defense mechanism, they are kicked in, and we start looking for a way in which to push aside the causes of whatever results we are producing away from us, so that we remain feeling good about ourselves. So we call about these ego defense mechanisms. So it's about when we refuse to accept the realities of the environment, if it's failure, and then because we want to protect our ego, we want to remain feeling good, remain feeling invincible, remaining feeling infallible, maintaining a certain status of this kind of a high performer, infallible kind of producer. Then this becomes one of the key problems that leads to our refusal to accept reality. And we are talking about this because of the fatal consequences that can happen when we refuse to accept our realities as they are. Because once we refuse to accept realities, we have lost control of the situation.
We've lost touch with reality.
Exactly.
Which is dangerous, because then you're now insane.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yes, definitely.
You're a dreamer with no actions. And I think it's important, we're going to get onto that in a bit more detail coming up. But
exactly.
It's important to understand that yes, we must dream, but we must not become dreamers.
Exactly.
There's no results if there's no actions.
Exactly. Precisely. And then the second one, the idea of refusal to accept reality, it comes from this aspect of denial. When we are in self-denial, or we are in denial of the situation, we see all indicators like failures. Normally when they happen, they don't just happen catastrophically, like it just happens. They've got patterns. We begin to see the patterns, and things are beginning to change. But initially we deny. We refuse to accept what we see, which is in our face. And this denial, we deny. Maybe we sometimes we just say it's a passing phase, when it's not really, when we know that this thing is not a passing phase, or we have not tested and we have not verified whether this is a passing phase or it's a real thing that is actually bulging into a very serious problem. So we were in denial, especially this is happening at leadership level in most cases. So when that happens, that denial keeps you in an environment in which you continue doing certain things in a certain way, and actually allowing the problem to grow bigger and the situation to gain momentum until it reaches a point beyond which we'll be able to react, to respond effectively to solve it. So that denial is a very serious problem.
You know what? I've just thought of like quite a good example just to hopefully explain that very simply. It's like when your car is on empty. This kind of denial is saying, sort of saying like my car is not on empty.
Yes.
I'm going to get all the way from here to 150 kilometers away. My car is not on empty. My car is not on empty. That is a state of denial. The car is on empty.
Yes.
But there are now ways to think about, okay, let's fill it up.
Yes.
Simply.
Definitely.
We're going 150 kilometers, we need X many liters.
Definitely.
Let's put those in. Rather than having that denial that you're going to get there on nothing.
Yes. This is a serious situation, and you know, sometimes how we deny things, like sometimes we are programmed because we are given, you know, through some religious issues can also lead us to develop this denial, which is not positive. We are going to talk about being positive minded, what it means, but the point where you deny a situation that is real. To say if you don't have cash in your pockets, and then you say to yourself you have enough money to meet your needs, and you get into this kind of denial, refusing to accept the reality as it is, it becomes a very serious problem. So denial is also again in two levels. First of all, denying that you are responsible for the results that are happening, and also denial of the real facts on the ground, and trying to replace facts on the ground with some conjured up facts that you have in your own mind. Let's say your company is the numbers are falling, and then you in your mind you've got this other company that has got these other numbers which are in this particular direction, and you deny the realities, and you actually want to live with what you have in your mind, in refusing to accept the realities on the ground. It becomes a very serious problem, because once you get into that trap, it means it gives you their comfort zone where you are going to remain comfortable, and you are not responding to when you are supposed to respond strategically to make sure that you get things back on track.
And you can hide behind that facade of your detachment from reality. You can hide behind that, especially in business, for a certain time. But by doing that hiding, by not accepting and taking the reality for what it is and coming up with a way out of it, by thinking properly and coming back to your strategy, by realigning to your vision, etc. Without doing that, you're basically pulling down everyone else with you. Rather than pulling everyone in and saying, hey guys, we've got a problem here. The reality is we want that, but we've got this. How are we going to get there? And this is where there's a huge detachment of where there's a confusion, and I think this leads us into nicely about talking about the positive thinking. Where you can have the positive thinking, yes, this is where we want to be.
Yes.
But you can't forget about where you are now.
And
understanding that to get from there to there just requires certain steps. And it's coming to know that you can't take those steps just by thinking them.
No.
Or by refusing to accept that you're there and thinking that you're already there, because you're not, you're there.
Yes, exactly.
It's a big problem, and it's hard. Like I remember when I first got into this, where I used to, getting into the positive thinking side of things and the literature, learning about it, and thinking like, okay, that's really nice, and I did it. I thought, okay, but I'm here, but I wasn't. I was there. But I convinced myself I was getting on that limit of insanity. Thinking, okay, but this is where I should be, but this is where I am, and then eventually coming back to the understanding that yes, this is where you are. Yes, this is where you want to be. Now let's think about how are we going to get there. And that's a simple process. And this is what people get confused with positive thinking. There's insane thinking, which is that I'm already here. And then there's the positive thinking that, okay, I'm here, which is not the good place. It's a negative place. But if I do X, Y, and Z, I can get there.
Yeah, you see, the issue of denial, again, just one other point is, you find that there are some people, like in leadership, who actually see that the situation that they're handling is beyond their capacity. They can't solve. But they deny that they can't solve it by themselves. So they refuse to accept help when they should get help quickly, so that they can solve the problem fast. They want to remain tinkering around, fidgeting around by themselves, wanting to feel like they're the ones who must produce the solution. When in actual fact, that solution is way beyond their capacity, or even the capacity of the organization. This is also another serious level of denial where you find that people fail to outperform the environment because the leadership, they really can't just accept that, no, this problem we're facing or this situation that we're facing is beyond our total capacity. What we need at the moment is to get help from somewhere so that we can solve it. So it's another serious kind of denial.
Very good one. It's like when you're sick.
Yes.
Let's say you're sick, you're the business as a team.
Yes.
And you're sick, so as the team leader, you prescribe a headache tablet.
Yes.
To the team. But the team actually has another kind of ailment.
Exactly.
That you cannot see, you cannot solve the problem by giving the discipline. And in business terms, this is where people throw money at the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
We need sales training, or we need a new accounting system, we need this. And they pay consultants lots of money. This is what gives consultants sometimes a bad reputation.
Yeah.
They pay lots of money and they're not actually sorting out the underlying problem.
Exactly.
What they need is a doctor to come in there and say, look guys, it's tonsillitis, it's not a headache.
Exactly.
You need this tablet.
Exactly.
And then now the problem has been solved. You've got the right kind of help. You've sorted the problem, and now you're back in touch with reality.
Exactly. So this is some of the things. And then the other thing we wanted to talk about is about fear. Brandon, why people refuse to accept reality. Some of it is out of fear, especially if they're leaders. They are afraid that if they accept reality, maybe they're going to be seen as incompetent. You know, they are going to be seen as incompetent in front of their peers and their teams. So instead of accepting reality, they'll project this atmosphere and image that they are in control of the situation, and the situation is not as bad as it is, just because they want to protect themselves from being seen as incompetent, because at an unconscious level they are feeling that they are going to be seen as part and parcel of the problem. They contributed to the problem, so it becomes another problem also in terms of why people refuse to accept reality. And then the last one I think we need to talk about is preserving the status quo.
It's very important.
Yeah, there's a serious challenge where we find that the status quo mechanisms in our minds, in our thinking, they are very, very difficult to disable, even if we are facing a different environment where status quo way of doing things no longer works. So the status quo, preserving the status quo way of doing things, status quo way of thinking, the status quo in terms of the people that you work with, the status quo in terms of the procedures and the processes that you do things, it becomes a very, very serious handicap itself when you want to outperform the environment. Because normally you find that people are repeating the same way of doing things that no longer works in an environment that has changed. And it's a very, very serious challenge that we face in most of the organizations, where problems worsen and they get into vicious cycles of maintaining the same results, or downward spirals where results are actually accelerating, worsening at an accelerating pace, simply because the people refusing to let go their status quo way of doing things. That is another problem that we normally face.
It's a big problem, and it's linked to accepting your reality today as it is, because people often fall into that trap of, but that way of that process got us out of this problem last year or 10 years ago, so it's going to work again. This is the way we're doing it.
Yes.
And that's exactly what you're talking about, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's that inability or that unacceptance.
Yes.
To move, to change your thinking.
Exactly.
So that you getting different results. Because what's happening, and this is something that in these days, in 2014, things are changing so quickly. Our environment is constantly changing. If we do not constantly change, we become a product of our environment, because the environment is too powerful if we get left behind.
Exactly.
So we have to remain ahead of our environment to outperform it.
Exactly.
And you cannot get ahead if you're thinking the old way.
Exactly.
You've got to think the new way.
Precisely.
And that new way changes every single day. Every single day you have to change how you think, because things have changed.
True.
Like we now in spring. So we'll see in this video series the flowers will change, the color of the grass, everything is changing now. That's a very basic example, but that's what's happening in life and in business, is things are changing, and they change relatively slowly, so you don't realize that it's actually changed from the grass being yellow to green.
Exactly.
And this is what's happening if we don't keep up with the reality of things, we get left behind.
Yes. So basically, from what we have talked so far, Brendan, I think the most important thing is whatever situation it is that you are facing, whatever results you are producing at this moment, the most important thing, first of all, is to accept those realities as they are, is to accept the situation as it factually is. If you are not producing good results, the accepting reality is saying, I'm bungling up my results. That's the truth. Yeah. I'm not getting what I want. That's the first thing. But then the second thing is you need to be positive, that you can change your results and you must change your results. So the idea now, we are moving from accepting that, because once you move away from this denial of the situation, denial of your participation, of your involvement, because we are co-creators of our results. So if you refuse your part, your thinking, your decision making, how am I making decisions? Your decisions are leading to the results that you are producing. If you refuse, then you have no room to make changes. But then the second thing is actually being positive. And Brendan, there's a problem with some of the ways we think about what positive thinking means. Positive thinking does not mean denying realities of your current realities. And this is one of the things we see, that some people, they get into this idea that positive thinking means that if you are sick, don't accept that you are sick. So you hear them telling, I refuse to be sick, I refuse to be poor. When you are poor, you are poor. That's at that level. Yes, you are, but you have to accept it. But then positive thinking means you are positive, that you can move yourself out of that zone of poverty into a better zone, or a zone of richness. You can move yourself from being ill to becoming better again.
Thank you, Simon. That's $1 million right there, I think, because you've explained very simply a very misunderstood concept. Can you do it again?
Yes.
Just to make sure.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, positive thinking does not mean you must refuse to accept your current realities as they are. If you are fat, right, you are overweight, it's better to accept that I am overweight, I'm fat right now. That's one. Accept it. Don't try to say I'm big when you're fat. You're fat. Right. Then from there, you must be positive minded, means you say I'm fat, but I can and I must become leaner. So that's, you are now moving from your reality to a different reality. It's about creating a different reality. That's all what life is about. Exactly. Your ability to create a different reality from the reality that you have now. That's what we talk about success. It's not about refusing. We meet people, Brendan, and you ask them, like, they say, oh, I'm very rich, I'm a millionaire, I'm what, and then the next minute, may I have a dollar? They don't have a dollar in their pocket. In their minds, they are thinking, I'm very rich, Yes, you are rich, but when you don't have cash, tell them, I don't have cash now, Accept that reality. Don't say, I am full of cash when you have no cent in your pocket. That's not being positive-minded.
That's lying.
That's lying.
That's misunderstanding. That's detaching yourself from reality, which is a dangerous game.
Yeah. So positive affirmations, again, if they are not done in the right way, they fool the brain to think that it is something that it doesn't have. You can't go around telling people you've got lots of cash when you have no cash in your pocket. The reality is you don't have. But if you say, I'm working towards having cash, more cash in my pockets, that's being positive.
Yeah.
But to say I have lots of cash when you have no cash in your pockets, and then your brain will quickly knows and say you are kidding me, and then you're actually having a conflict with your brain.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the point is though that you telling yourself that you're a millionaire. You don't go then and tell other people that you're a millionaire until you are actually a millionaire.
Exactly.
Then you can outwardly express that. But in order for you to become that millionaire, if you are in a situation of poverty, you have to convince yourself that you are a millionaire without detaching from reality.
Exactly.
So convincing yourself that you are going to become a millionaire by telling yourself now that you already are, so that you start taking the millionaire actions to get yourself to achieve that. Yeah. That is the difference. It doesn't just happen because you believe it's happened. It happens because you believe you are capable of making it happen.
Exactly. So the idea we're talking about here is, you know, these positive affirmations can create some boomerangs if we don't craft them in the right way. Yeah. For example, I'm talking about having cash, because being a millionaire does not necessarily mean that you have cash. Even millionaires can actually have times when they don't have cash, when they are millionaires. So a millionaire is a mindset. If you tell yourself, I've got a millionaire mindset, that your brain will understand it better at that moment when you don't have any evidence, tangible evidence to show that you're a millionaire. Okay. Or I'm working myself to becoming a millionaire. It's a process. Your brain will more accept it because you are actually saying, oh, even if I don't have any positive physical manifestations of a millionaire, but in my mind I'm working myself towards becoming a millionaire. What we are talking about is the positive denial, where people say, I've got cars, I've got a helicopter, when you don't have one.
An aeroplane.
I've got an aeroplane, when you don't have one. So that kind of, especially when you communicate with people, it really creates problems. So what we are simply saying is, first of all, you have to accept your reality. Then positive mindset means you have got the confidence that you can do something that can take you out from there to where you want to be. You have got the capacity to create different results to what results you are creating now. It's about being intelligent in terms of really accepting reality, but also accepting that if I work on myself, if I have a plan, if I work a strategy, if I do everything that is required, I can actually work myself out from this situation towards a better situation.
Okay, so let me just sum up very
Sure.
quickly. I'm going to do it in one sentence today.
Sure.
If you are going to outperform your current environment, which is what this whole program is all about, you must accept your reality as it is today. And through positive thinking, allow yourself time to take the right actions to get yourself actually out of the current situation into the new situation. You cannot do that without accepting the reality of where you currently are and what the environment currently is. But work on the internal environment, and you will influence the external environment, which is your results.
Precisely.
Okay, so thanks very much, and next week once again we'll have another very interesting discussion, and we hope you're enjoying these programs.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ivan.